There's a kind of discipline that doesn't inspire people. It unsettles them. You've seen it before. That one person who just doesn't break. They wake up at the same time every day. They follow through. They don't overthink. They don't feel like it. They just do it. And after a while, people stop saying, "That's impressive." They start saying, "That's not normal." And they're right. It's not. Because what you're looking at is not motivation. It's not even discipline in the way most people understand it. It's something colder, more calculated, more deliberate. And if I'm being honest with you, a little frightening. Most people don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because they're still negotiating with themselves. I'll start tomorrow. I'll just skip today. I'll make up for it later. It sounds harmless. But Machiavelli would tell you, this is where you lose. Not in the big moments, in the quiet ones, where you give yourself permission to step back. Because once you allow negotiation, you've already split yourself in two. One part that wants to grow, another that wants comfort. And comfort almost always wins. There was a time when I believed discipline was about pushing harder, trying more, wanting it more. But the truth is, effort is unreliable. Some days you have it, some days you don't. And if your life depends on how you feel that morning, you're already unstable. Machiavelli understood something most people still avoid. If you want control, you remove choice. You don't wake up and ask yourself if you'll act. You build your life in a way where not acting doesn't exist. That's the shift. Not trying harder, but designing your behavior so failure becomes inconvenient. Think about it. The average person wastes more energy deciding when to do something than actually doing it. Morning? Night? After work? Later? Every option creates hesitation. Every hesitation opens a door. And your mind is very good at finding the easiest exit. But the man who becomes dangerous eliminates that question entirely. There is no when, there is only now. The time is fixed. The action is fixed. And over time, something strange happens. You stop arguing with yourself, because there's nothing left to argue about. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because even after you remove choice, your mind doesn't give up. It adapts. It starts whispering new ideas. Maybe I should switch things up. Maybe I need something different today. This is getting repetitive. It sounds reasonable, even intelligent, but it's just another form of escape. Machiavelli would see right through it because variation feels like growth, but often it's just disguised inconsistency. The man who builds real discipline does something most people can't tolerate. He repeats the same actions, the same structure, again and again. Not because it's exciting, but because it works. And eventually your mind gets tired of resisting. It quiets down. And that's when things start to change. At first, it feels forced. You have to drag yourself into it. Your body complains. Your thoughts resist. Everything in you says, this isn't sustainable. But if you stay with it, something shifts. You stop needing to convince yourself. You stop needing motivation. You just move. You wake up and start before your brain even has time to object. And that's a strange feeling. Because for the first time, you're not relying on willpower. You've become automatic. Now here's the part no one prepares you for. It's not about doing it when everything is perfect. It's about what happens when everything falls apart. When you're tired. When you're busy. When life gets messy. That's where most people break. They tell themselves it's okay to pause, to reset, to come back later. And sometimes that sounds reasonable. But more often than not, that pause turns into a pattern. And the moment consistency breaks, so does your identity. Machiavelli would call this loss of control. And once control slips, even slightly, your old habits start creeping back in. So the man who becomes untouchable does something different. He plans for failure in advance. He doesn't wait until things go wrong. He decides beforehand what he'll do when they do. If he's tired, he adjusts, but he still acts. If he's busy, he compresses, but he still shows up. If everything goes wrong, he simplifies, but he doesn't stop, because stopping is not an option. It's not even on the table. And after a while, people notice. They start to feel it. Not just what you do, but how you carry yourself. They'll say things like, "You're too intense. You need balance." That's a bit extreme, but what they're really saying is, "You're doing something I can't," and that makes them uncomfortable. Because your consistency highlights their inconsistency. Your discipline forces them to look at themselves, and most people don't want to do that. But here's the truth. You're not doing this for them. You're doing it because you've seen something most people never do. That discipline isn't about becoming better. It's about becoming different. You stop being someone who tries, and you become someone who does. No hesitation, no excuses, no negotiation. And eventually it becomes who you are. Not something you think about. Not something you struggle with. Just your baseline. You don't need motivation anymore. You don't need reminders. You don't even need to feel strong, because strength has already been built into your system. And when you reach that point, something changes in how people see you. They won't always understand it. They might not even like it, but they'll feel it. Because there's something about a person who doesn't break that makes others question themselves. So the real question is this. Do you want to be disciplined? Or do you want to become someone who cannot be anything else? Because those are two very different paths. One is temporary. The other rewires who you are. And if you choose that second path, just know this. The version of you that hesitates, delays, negotiates, won't survive it. It can't. Something else will take its place. Something quieter, more controlled, more focused. A version of you that doesn't stop not because it's trying harder, but because stopping no longer makes sense. And when people look at you and say, "That's not normal," you won't argue. You won't explain. You'll just keep going. Because at that point, you're not chasing discipline anymore. You've become it. And here's the part most people never admit to themselves. It gets lonely. Not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, subtle way. You start to notice how often others quit, how easily they compromise, how quickly they justify staying the same. And you won't relate to that version of thinking anymore. You'll sit in rooms where people talk about change, but never act on it. And instead of feeling inspired, you'll feel detached. Not because you're better, but because you've crossed a line most will not. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. But that's the cost, and also the advantage. Because while others are still debating with themselves, you've already moved. While they're still waiting to feel ready, you're already done. And that's what makes this level of discipline so rare. Not that it's impossible, but that most people are not willing to become the kind of person it requires.